Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to get a little philosophical today?
Always up for a good, thought-provoking session.
Well, today we're going deep with the one and only Alan Watts. Specifically, his book, Just So.
A classic, full of Watts' signature wit and wisdom.
Exactly. And, we're focusing on this whole idea of embracing spontaneity that he dives into.
Yeah, he really challenges us to rethink how we see, well, pretty much everything. The universe, ourselves, the whole shebang.
And what's interesting is he doesn't just see spontaneity as like, a personality trait or something.
Right, it's not just about being impulsive or random. It's way deeper than that.
So there's a bigger picture we're missing here.
Absolutely. Watts argues that this whole Western worldview, the one that emphasizes control and predictability, well, it's kind of like looking at the world through a Venetian blind. You see bits and pieces, but you miss the way everything connects.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So our focus on control is actually preventing us from seeing the true nature of reality.
In a way, yeah. Our senses, our thinking minds, they create these blinds that limit our perception.
So how does this play out in our daily lives? I mean, most of us aren't pondering the universe while we're making breakfast.
Think about it. How often do you try to force things to go a certain way, try to plan every detail, only to find that life has other plans?
Oh, all the time. I'm a planner by nature, so it's frustrating when things don't go according to plan.
Right, and that frustration, Watt suggests, comes from trying to control something that's inherently uncontrollable.
You mean like trying to control the weather or traffic?
Exactly. It's like trying to fit the ocean into a teacup. You're going to spill a lot and probably make a mess.
So what's the alternative? Just give up and let chaos reign.
Not quite. Watts isn't saying that planning is bad, but he's urging us to loosen our grip on the need to control everything, to recognize that there's a natural flow to life, and sometimes the wisest course of action is to simply go with it.
That makes sense. But letting go of control can feel scary, right?
It can be, especially when we've been conditioned to believe that control is the key to success and happiness. But Watts suggests that it's actually in letting go of this illusion of control that we might discover a deeper sense of freedom.
Okay, so how do we make that leap? How do we go from feeling like we're constantly battling against life
Yeah.
to actually embracing the flow?
Well, this is where things get really mind-bending. Watts proposes that the universe isn't this cold mechanical machine we often imagine it to be.
You mean there's more to it than just gears and sprockets?
Way more. He suggests that the universe is more like a giant, intelligent organism.
Whoa, an intelligent organism? You mean like some kind of cosmic being?
It's a radical idea, but that's essentially what he's proposing. We're not just separate, isolated beings bouncing around in a random void. We're all interconnected, part of this larger, self-organizing whole.
Okay, that's a lot to wrap my head around.
Hmm.
But if we're part of this intelligent, interconnected system, does that mean we don't have any individual agency?
Not at all. It's more like recognizing that our actions have a ripple effect, that we're participating in a grand cosmic dance.
So maybe letting go isn't about passivity or giving up, but about trusting in a deeper wisdom, a wisdom that's woven into the fabric of the universe itself.
Exactly. And that's where spontaneity comes in. If we see ourselves as part of this intelligent, interconnected web, then acting spontaneously isn't about being random or reckless. It's about aligning ourselves with the natural flow of things, trusting our intuition, and allowing ourselves to be guided by something greater than our conscious minds.
It's like surrendering to the rhythm of the universe.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And, this brings us to another fascinating point that Rotz makes. Our Western obsession with efficiency and seriousness.
Yeah, he talks about how we've even turned our leisure time into a series of tasks to be completed, always striving for optimization. It's exhausting.
It is. It's like we've forgotten how to simply be, how to enjoy the moment without needing to analyze it or document it for social media.
And what's the harm in that? I mean, isn't it good to be efficient and make the most of our time?
Well, Watts argues that this constant need for control and efficiency can actually prevent us from experiencing true joy and fulfillment. It's like we're so busy chasing after happiness that we miss it when it's right in front of us.
So we're so focused on getting to the destination that we forget to enjoy the journey.
Exactly. He suggests that true pleasure comes from aligning ourselves with the natural flow of life, embracing the ups and downs, the work and the play, and finding joy in the present moment, rather than constantly striving for some future state of happiness.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all connects, but it sounds like a pretty radical shift in perspective. I mean, how do we actually start to see things this way?
Well, Watts introduces this really intriguing concept he calls true materialism.
Wait, true materialism, isn't that an oxymoron?
It might sound that way at first, but Watts isn't talking about materialism in the sense of accumulating possessions. He's talking about a deep appreciation for the physical world, for the present moment, for the tangible reality of our existence.
So it's not about rejecting material things, but about seeing them in a new light.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that the spiritual isn't separate from the material, but can be found in the simplest, most everyday experiences. Like, he tells this great story about a Japanese monk who was asked to speak about spiritual ideas.
Oh yeah, I remember that story. And instead of giving some grand philosophical lecture, the monk just described his house and garden in vivid detail.
Right. And he received a standing ovation for his realness. It's a beautiful illustration of how true spirituality can be found in the ordinary, in the tangible world around us.
So how does this true materialism connect to spontaneity?
By cultivating a deep awareness of our senses, by truly experiencing the physical world around us, we can tap into a deeper sense of joy and fulfillment. It's about finding pleasure in the now, rather than waiting for some future event to make us happy.
It sounds like a more mindful way of living, being present in each moment.
It is, but it's not just about being present. It's about recognizing the inherent intelligence and beauty in everything around us.
Okay, I'm with you so far. But what about responsibility? I mean, isn't there a danger in being too focused on the present that we neglect planning for the future?
That's where Watts's concept of the unborn mind comes in.
The unborn mind, what's that?
It's this state of pure potential, the creative spark that exists before thought and planning take over. He suggests we can access this state through practices like meditation, but also through cultivating a playful, curious attitude towards life. Like, he tells this funny anecdote about a Zen master who is asked how to escape the heat.
And the master says, just sweat.
Exactly. It's about letting go of resistance and allowing ourselves to fully inhabit each moment. But more on that in our next segment. Welcome back. Now, where were we? Ah, yes. True materialism.
Right, that's where we left off. Still wrapping my head around that one.
It's a head scratcher for sure, but really it gets to the heart of how we view, well, everything. Money, possessions, even happiness.
Okay, so how does true materialism play out in those areas?
Well, take money, for example. Watts isn't saying money itself is evil. It's more about the meaning we attach to it.
The whole money can't buy happiness thing.
Kind of, but deeper. It's like we get caught up in this symbolic game, buying expensive things not because we truly value them, but because of what they represent.
Status symbols.
Yeah.
Designer clothes, fancy cars, that kind of thing.
Exactly. We end up chasing external validation instead of cultivating inner fulfillment.
It's almost like we're trying to buy happiness.
And Watts would say that's a fool's errand. True happiness, that deep sense of contentment, doesn't come from external things.
So it's not about what we have, but how we relate to it.
Bingo. And that's where spontaneity comes in. When we're so focused on achieving some future goal, the perfect house, the perfect job, the perfect whatever, we miss out on the joy of the present moment.
It's that whole journey versus destination thing again.
Precisely. And Watts takes it even further. He argues that this obsession with achieving, with optimizing every aspect of our lives, it's actually robbing us of true pleasure.
Because we're always striving, always reaching for something just out of grasp.
Exactly. And then even when we do achieve something, there's always the next goal, the next thing to strive for. It's like we're on this endless treadmill.
Always running, but never really getting anywhere.
And feeling exhausted and dissatisfied the whole time, Watts suggests a different approach. Embrace the present moment. Savor the simple pleasures. Find the joy in the everyday.
Okay, but easier said than done, right?
No.
Especially in our fast-paced, achievement-oriented culture.
Absolutely. It takes conscious effort to shift our perspective, to break free from those ingrained patterns.
So how do we start?
Well, one place to begin is with our relationship to work. Watts makes a distinction between having a job and having a vocation.
So it's not just about earning a paycheck.
Right. A job is often something we do solely for the money, whereas a vocation is something we're passionate about, something that brings us a sense of purpose.
I think I see the difference. A job is about survival. A vocation is about, well, something more.
It's about aligning our work with our values, with our passions. When we find that sweet spot, work becomes less of a chore and more of an expression of who we are.
I love that idea, but it's not always realistic, right? Not everyone can just quit their job and pursue their passions.
Of course not. Watts isn't advocating for some impractical, pie-in-the-sky idealism. He's acknowledging the realities of life, the need to earn a living, to meet our responsibilities.
But he's encouraging us to question our assumptions, to see if there might be a different way.
Exactly. It's about being mindful, being intentional, and looking for opportunities to align our work with our values, even in small ways.
I like that. It's about making conscious choices rather than just going through the motions.
Right, and it's about finding ways to bring that sense of playfulness, that spontaneity into our work. Remember the image of dancing the bus through traffic.
It's hard to forget.
Exactly. Watts is reminding us not to take ourselves too seriously, to find the joy and creativity in everything we do, even the most mundane tasks.
It's about bringing that unborn mind, that state of pure potential, into every aspect of our lives.
You got it. It's about letting go of that rigid need for control and allowing ourselves to be surprised, to be delighted, to be fully present in each moment.
So in a way, embracing spontaneity is about finding that delicate balance between effort and surrender, between taking action and letting go.
Beautifully put. And it's this delicate dance that we'll continue to explore in our final segment. We'll dive even deeper into the idea of letting go, and we'll touch on Watts's provocative perspective on saving the world. Back for more mind-bending wisdom from Alan Watts.
Ready when you are. We left off talking about finding that balance between effort and surrender. Where do we go from there?
Well, this is where we get to the heart of it, the letting go part. It's a theme Watts returns to again and again, this idea that our need for control is actually what's causing us so much suffering.
Yeah, we're always trying to force things to go our way, resist change, cling to what we know.
It's like we're trying to hold back the tide with our bare hands. Exhaustion and frustration are pretty much inevitable.
So what's the alternative? Just give up and let the waves crash over us.
Not exactly. It's not about giving up, but about surrendering, about recognizing that we're not really in control as much as we think we are.
Okay, but how do we surrender without feeling like we're just being passive, letting life happen to us?
That's the key, isn't it? It's not about passivity, but about aligning ourselves with the flow of life, about working with it, not against it.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. Do you have an example?
Sure, think about a puppet. We often feel like we're puppets, dangling on strings at the mercy of fate.
I can definitely relate to that feeling sometimes.
But Watts suggests a different perspective. What if, instead of resisting the strings, we learn to dance with them?
So it's not about denying the forces that shape our lives, but about finding a way to move with them gracefully.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that we're part of something much larger than ourselves, and that our struggles often come from trying to separate ourselves from that whole.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
So where does this idea of saving the world fit into all of this? You mentioned last time that Watts had a rather provocative take on that.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting. He suggests that our obsession with saving the world might actually come from a sense of arrogance.
Arrogance? How so?
Well, think about it. This idea that the world needs saving implies that it's somehow broken, that we know better, that we have the solutions.
Okay, when you put it like that, I can see how it could come across as arrogant.
And it also sets up this kind of adversarial relationship with the world, with nature. It's us versus them.
So what's a more, let's say, humble approach?
Watts suggests that maybe the world doesn't need saving. Maybe it's already perfect in its own way, with its cycles of creation and destruction, its inherent beauty and chaos.
That's a pretty radical thought. So are you saying we should just give up on trying to make the world a better place?
Not at all. It's not about giving up, but about approaching things from a place of love and acceptance rather than fear and judgment.
I like that. It's about working with nature, not against it.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe by letting go of our need to fix everything, we might actually create space for real, lasting change.
It's kind of like that saying, what you resist persists.
Right. When we can let go of our rigid expectations and embrace the present moment, that's when true transformation can happen.
And that brings us back to spontaneity, doesn't it?
Full circle. It's about opening ourselves to the unknown, trusting our intuition, and allowing ourselves to be guided by something greater than our limited minds.
It's about finding the joy and wonder in the present moment, even as we work towards a better future.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, it seems like we've covered a lot of ground today. From the illusion of control to the power of surrender. From true materialism to the unborn mind. This has been a truly mind-expanding exploration of Alan Watts' ideas.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this wild ride. We hope it's inspired you to embrace a little more spontaneity in your own lives.
Follow The Infinite Within with Cecilia to explore profound insights on pantheism. Embrace the oneness of existence and unlock the mysteries within you.